And all of our meeting minutes then go to the regional meeting, which in turns are discussed, approved, to see what we're doing. Our terms of reference. Now, our terms of reference is in one of the handouts that I have given you guys. And our value statement, which is as simplistic as we can get it, is each person has dignity and worth and deserves to be treated with respect and fairness. We are accepting and supportive committee that identifies and works to respond to the needs of others with lived experience. We embrace individuality and respect diversity of our peers. And that's basically, with a person with lived experience, that's all we want is respect. It's, I think, just the fundamentals of anywhere, whether you are at college, you're in the workplace, you are what have you, respect is respect. Our terms of reference, the benefits of the committee, we do peer support. So if one of our members is having a hard time with whatever, maybe going on at a district or a regional meeting, we can discuss it and give him or her support. We also do informal mentoring towards different peers to try to help them speak about what's going on with them and get them out of their bubble. Sometimes it's very difficult when you're first approaching somebody with a lived experience that has had sporadic encounters with police or have not found, social workers to be helpful for whatever situation. If we could turn around and in turn mentor them and go, you know what, it's not as bad as you think, and hopefully direct them in the right area that, this would better serve you and be able to be more educational, and this is something that maybe you should look into and weigh the pros and cons and actually, and if you want us to, come with you, not a problem, we'll come with you. So it's a little bit more of, the supporting. We find that small groups accomplish more work. I personally sit on the regional committee, and we've had, our work plan on the regional committee is obviously a heck of a lot bigger than what we have on our advisory. And sometimes it's hard, especially with people that have, the occupations such as yourselves, to, okay, let me look at my phone book and go, okay, on such and such a day, are you free? No? Okay, how about this next day? So what we find is the smaller groups, we can manage to work more effectively, to turn around and actually get things done. Mind you, we are an advisory committee, so there's only so much we actually can do, and you'll see in a couple other slides. And we are consistently personally growing. Sometimes I wonder about that though, I'm not quite sure about it, and we're challenging the status quo. As far as I know, and if anybody else knows any different, please let me know. We are the only running advisory group that is built up of peoples with lived experience, so consumer survivors, that has a subcommittee that is actively working together and is sticking into whichever region. We had, last time when we did the presentation in 2011, there was a couple people that were from Southern Ontario that wanted to know how we were managing to consistently do what we were doing without having, the consumer survivors running out the door. And we were able to provide documentation such as this stuff and go, okay, you know what, it is very much possible, but you have to, work together. Our work plan. So our work plan is student education and awareness, our startup kits, obviously coming here because we want to give everybody an update, our budget and our committee maintenance. And this is one of the other documents that's in the handouts too. And we'll go into those. 2011, when we were here. It was me, Stephanie in this corner, and John. We came down to do the original PowerPoint presentation. And it was a lot to deal with. Okay, how do we function as a committee, and letting other people from different regions know that an actual functioning consumer survivor group is out there that is trying to make a difference and is standing behind you guys going, you know what, we can all, all of us putting our brains together can turn around and actually make a difference. We got really good feedback from the actual the conference in 2011, and it's the reason why we're here. And these are just pictures. And that is the other member that came on with his name's Kevin. And Ron Ellis was one of the keynotes. Oh, well, that was a speaker. This is the presentations to the students. So last year, we did presentations to the 4th and 1st year social work students. And it was basically a shrunk version of this PowerPoint. And basically told them of our life experiences as social workers. On the other end, as the patient coming into a social work, into a meeting, what would be beneficial to have coming from the client-patient relationship, and to sometimes how to bridge that gap a little easier. There's a lot of things that when you get into, social work or any of your fields, it's easy to read a textbook. It's harder to, if you don't have that lived experience, to actually, put two and two together, or to turn around and have a kind of an understanding of, like, I know what you've gone through. I've been through it. So we turned around and we have been asked again. I do believe February we're going to be speaking to the LU students again. And we have got unbelievable feedback from the students there. And Dr. Connie Nelson it's a huge special thanks, because she is the one that has led us into her rooms. And she wants us to come again this year. So we're just trying to make a difference from, common Joe, so to speak. These are some of the student feedbacks we got. These first of all of them, and I do have a stack that I've put into the computer. I just picked out a couple to have as a key points. Thank you for taking the time to come into our classes. I can only imagine the courage it takes to come into a room full of people, many of whom have many assumptions about consumer survivors and their experiences and needs. To address these issues of stigma, perhaps you could include the concept of invisible disability, the assumption that they can see someone's needs and judge them appropriately. And that is part and parcel of that invisible disability, because not many people can turn around and I can put a happy face on and make everybody in the world think that everything's fine with me. But what's happening internally and what I think about is something completely different. And that mask that we put on is sometimes very hard to read. And coming this from one of the social worker students is huge, because then it's like, oh, you see this happy person in front of the classroom. Let me tell you about my life. It ain't no bowl of sunshine. The next one is, it was humbling to hear about your personal fears and the stigma of mental health, which is huge. And coming from somebody that's been through it, consistently goes through it, it's huge. I'm inspired hearing about your work that each of you are doing to contribute positively to our community. And in that one, it is has to do a lot with our startup kits and a few other things that we've done in the community. Stories drive home, messages home, insight into social workers need to remember when working with people, establishing trust and engaging in their own healing and recovery. Because it's not sometimes as much as you guys are fixing us. Sometimes something that we'll have to say may hit you guys in a soft spot, or something traumatic has happened to you, and between the both, you can turn around and heal internally yourself. Mind you, I don't know if I was in a social worker background, if I'd want to actually go, you know what, thank you. Mind you, you probably would. So, yeah. Our startup kits. We started these last year. They originally started off as discharge kits. We have now changed the name to startup kits. And basically what it is, with the help of the district, phsjcc, we put together a huge kit. I can't say it's huge. It's the basic needs that everybody, you know, when you get discharged from jails, many of you working either corrections or police or what have you, when you're discharged, what do you get? The clothing off your back and whatever's in your kitty kind of idea. That's it. See you later. You know, maybe a couple, here's some pamphlets about, you know, this nurse practitioner or what have you. These kits include the basics: toothbrush, toothpaste, a towel, face cloth, soap, shampoo, razors, and that's a whole different subject when you're dealing with actual nails, which have to be separated and given at a different time. Condoms, of course, because we want people to be safe. Hair brushes, deodorant. What else are these kids? I'm trying. Oh, I'm probably missing a few things. But it's a good size kit. So if somebody's being released from an institution, they will have, you know, a towel, a face cloth. That's something more than, you know, if you're being released, you're getting in actuality. And if you're being, say, there's a lot of people in Thunder Bay that are released in Thunder Bay that are from surrounding areas. Well, you know, if they're from a northern remote community up north and they're being released in Thunder Bay, they have absolutely nothing. Yeah.
So can I ask a question?
Oh, by all means.
How do you get funding for that?
It is through our district, phsjcc. And actually, I'll flip to the next slide. This is the ones that we started up this year. We have done 50 thus far. The E-Fry, Elizabeth Fry, have done the women's discharge kits, and have done either 50 or 100, and we are doing the men's. So basically the surplus funds that we have at district level, we're taking them, we're purchasing all the stuff to put into the discharge kits, and then turning around and distributing them to, we dropped a bunch off at Alpha Court, Pace. The Thunder Bay District Jail took a bunch, and the John Howard, because the John Howard in T-Bay has a residential unit attached to it. So there is, I don't even know how many spots are in the residential, and they have to follow certain guidelines and so on and so forth. But we dropped them off. We're planning on doing another 50 by January. Yeah.
So were you guys connected with E-Fry through the HSJCC, or was that on like your subcommittee?
Subcommittee, district level, kind of in and about surrounds. They found out that we were doing discharge kits,
Yeah.
and they wanted to help out, which was huge.
Yeah.
Because, you know, as much as doing 100 kits, well, how many people come in and out of the institutions? It's a lot more than 100, you know, for a fiscal year. So with E-Fry being able to kind of jump on board and help us out, we're able to double that, which is absolutely huge.
That's huge. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And this is all stuff that we do on in the back door kind of idea.
And it's all brand new,
It's all brand new.
right? Because I think that would be
looking into putting hand sanitizer in these, but that's a very thin line, especially with different people's addictions. There is a non-alcoholic hand sanitizer. It's freaking expensive. You can only get it at Walmart, and you think I could get, because I used to work at Walmart a while ago, you think I could get like mass order it, or just get them, and then they stopped bringing them in. It was like, you gotta be joking me.
From a nursing perspective, it's not nearly as good as,
Well,
you're not looking at production.
yeah, I know. And you know, which would I rather supply? Would I rather supply towels and face cloths? You know, and a bar of soap kind of idea?
Yeah.
Or, you know, a bottle of non-alcoholic hand sanitizer. I'd rather give towels and face cloths because it's more practical. You know?
In one of the other sessions we were in, there was a lot of discussion about patients going direct to court. So if you're, that don't go back to the detention center or the 30s. So have you dealt with that in your area as far as people that are leaving the courthouse with nothing? Is there a way for them to get the kit?
That's where Alpha Court, PACE, which is people's,
People advocating for change through empowerment.
that's it. That's where their agencies kind of come in, because if you're being released, like in that note, they'll be getting documentation from one of these different agencies to, you know, come and see us and, you know, come and talk and so on and so forth. So they'll be able to, hey, you know, we understand you just got, you know, probation or what have you, you know, do you have anything, you're in the city, you're new to the city, here, let me get you the basics. So this is why we kind of are distributing them to where we are. So it's trying to get even spread, and it's really interesting getting them into like our district jail. There's one of the what is she? I think she's a correctional officer, or one of the psychologists that's in there that literally stuffs all these bags in her own office because there's just not enough room. And that's what we're finding even in the actual jail out on the farm. There's just no room. So, and we have to turn around and take, you know, the sharps out of that equation, or the razors and stuff out of that equation when we're putting them into the district jail. We usually, if they start, no, you know, we cannot have these, we'll turn around and give like a Ziploc baggie extra for, you know, PACE or Alpha Court. Whereas district jail, and sometimes, you know, just give me a baggie and, you know, upon release, I can go here. But they cannot be in the actual kits at the time. But thank goodness to one of the, I do believe she's a social worker, she was actually in with a client, well, in another meeting when I dropped them off at the district jail, and it was stuff them all in her actual office, and we brought like 20 of them, 25 of them, and just stuffed them all in her office, which is actually a pretty good, decent sized room.
And the clients also would have, if they're coming from jail, coming from the courthouse, they could contact PACE if they knew there was a startup kit. They can contact the Alpha Court or PACE or wherever to request one.
That's true.
We also, too, one of our members on the district phsjcc is a court diversion worker for cmha, so that all helps to add into it also.
This one I'm gonna pass to Brian, because I wasn't there. Him and our chair ended up going to this, so I'm gonna pass this one over to Brian.
Hello, myself as a consumer survivor, and Jim Gillespie, our chair, who I wish he would have came, but he kind of declined. We went, the OPP had gone around to all the different regions, talking to mental health professionals, other agencies that deal with it, and they wanted to also speak with actual consumer survivors. To get, because they're trying to develop a strategy for the office, and a lot of the officers have requested that they get training, because they don't, just like in the city, they're, down here, it's not, I imagine, a problem, but Thunder Bay, people, there's a bear in my backyard. Well, the government don't want to pay the MNR, so the police have to come, they end up shooting the bear because they're not trained to deal with the bear. they're not trained to deal with people in the mental health crisis. And the one point I brought up, and the OPP all liked it, is a lot of times if people's in an acute crisis, the last thing they need is a cop showing up with his vest and all this stuff. If there's a hostage situation, do they walk in with their guns blazing first? No, they try to talk. And it's good to see that they're doing that. The city of Thunder Bay is trying to get funding from the LINs to get training for their officers, but it went over pretty well, and they gave Jim that plaque and everything. It was quite good, and that's the other problem is a lot of people that have, like myself, had problems with dealings with mental health and being in and out incarcerated. I don't wanna go talk to cops. And look, when I sit on there's the advisory committee that we're mainly on, but then I'm on the district, Charlotte's on the regional, and then most of them there's crown attorneys, there's court workers, and I haven't been in trouble with the law for years, so I don't have any problem, but a lot of people do. And like Charlotte said, and the other thing with Thunder Bay is it's a regional. So lots of these people are coming in from 300 miles, 200 miles north from little fly-in reserves, and it's a regional area, so it's good for the doll to be able to get some kind of training with that. And as far as I know, I think they're working on trying to get the Anishinaabe police services to try and get some kind of training like that too, because they all deal with crises too. The same with our discharge kids. When people come out there to get out of the psych ward, they're getting out of jail. Maybe they were arrested in the spring and they're getting kicked out in December and they got nothing. They're gonna go live in a rooming house and for the police to be able to have things. And then I spoke to an officer here today, like PACE, which I've been a member of PACE since '94. Jim Gillespie started that. It's a CSI, which is called a Consumer Survivor Initiative. And it's run by consumers. The staff that work there are consumers. And the problem a lot of people have is that deal with CMHA, it's more like it's a little on the clinical side, whereas there we're all consumers, and we have satellite offices in Geraldton, Manitowoc, Scriber, Geraldton. Well, I'm not on the board right now, but I was on the board at PACE. We went to Scriber. We didn't know where the office was. We went to the OPP and said, "Can you tell us whereabouts the PACE on PACE? We never heard of that." Well, if the officers aren't even aware that it's there, somebody in crisis may end up in a jail cell, whereas they could say, "Oh, well, there's a place here." So the officers have to at least have something at their disposal to be able to, oh, okay, well, in Thunder Bay, they're lucky. They got PACE, Alpha Court, there's numerous. But some of these little northern towns, there's one agency if they're lucky. And if the police aren't aware of it, even the hospital.
You're up a creek with
And myself, like I say, I've been through the ringer. I'm actually part of a class action lawsuit with Roshan and Genova over treatment that happened to me in Oak Ridges. So when they say you're a survivor, yeah, I'm a survivor. I went through a lot of stuff in there, but that was back in the 70s. And then I was a severe alcoholic for many years, and I gave it up, but then that was to cover trauma as a child. Then when I gave up the alcohol, well, I no longer had the defenses to deal with it, so then all of a sudden, boom, panic and anxiety disorder. I still got it. So I managed to keep it in check, but yeah, with the police, it's good that as much as in the day they arrested me lots, I've never been one of these ones that had to hate on for them, and I'll go talk to them. But a lot of people have a problem with that. And then, like I say, and me sitting back in Thunder Bay, the incident that happened down here on the streetcar, that was, and which they spoke about. Like, to me, that I just can't grasp that. At the time when the guy was slashing at passengers, Okay, there's a danger. The driver, everybody was off of there. It was just a young man on the streetcar alone. You can't talk him down, and then you see in Vancouver there, they got crisis workers that can actually go do a ride along with the police. Now in Northern Ontario, it's not always the case that, oh, we got a mental health crisis, we'll bring somebody, but it's something to do. But yeah, that incident really, it still doesn't sit well with me. Like, why did they have to shoot him? What's he gonna do? Hurt himself, slash the seats in the streetcar? There was nobody out there anymore. But then I can understand the police. Sometimes, well, I can't understand the police, but I can understand some of their frustration, because they're not set up to deal with that. But then again, they fall in the same category. I don't know how many police, firemen, ambulance drivers suffer from PTSD, mental illness. And lots of them aren't in the same boat. I don't want to say, oh, I'm suffering, because my colleagues are going to know I might lose my job. Consumer survivors are the same thing, and I found out, like, I'm on ODSP and I ride mountain bike, chronic smoker, I ride 40, 50 mile. People, how come you're on disability? Yeah, well, if you go to your employer and say, here, I got a letter from the doctor, I hurt my back, I got 2 weeks off, no problem. You bring in a letter, oh, Mr. McKenna suffers from a panic disorder. Oh, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to let you go. So it's not as easy as people make it out to be. And then when we have groups like ours, we can kind of get together and deal with some stuff.
Vent.
And then it is hard. A lot of people, because their illness is up and down, they can't be consistent. We've been lucky that we've had that consistency, and being able to speak with that. Connie Nelson brings us in to speak to those students. Some of them social work students are planning to do the social work on the Northern Reserves, where it's needed. The suicide rate is high up there, and it's just horrible. So anything we can do to help, and even to help court workers or whoever, well, here we have an alternative. Whatever we can do, we can't always do everything, but the discharge kits and stuff.
We're comfortable enough that we can talk to healthcare providers and police and corrections. And, you know, like, I haven't been in trouble for a very long time. So, I mean, I'm comfortable. Like, I live just outside the city of Thunder Bay, and I'm on almost a name-on-name basis with OPD officers, because I don't deal with the city police, because I'm just out of jurisdiction, so I deal with the officers. And I'll go into a little bit more, because we're gonna talk about our stories, but, speaking of which. Well, let's just start this off, okay. Where to even start? I am a builder. I actively, or attempt to actively, attend AA and NA meetings. I have been clean for 12 years. My daily habit of cocaine was $1,800 a day. Which, you know, we used to chuckle about back then and going, yeah, dude, if one of us drops, you know, take out your lungs and scrape them. It was pretty morbid back then, but it's all in part of the coping, right? Approximately 11, 12 years ago, my other half turned around, and my children's father turned around and overdosed and died. I was in the hospital having cancer surgery at the time, so I found out I was in just off of ICU because I had had complications through my surgery, and they wanted to keep me close to ICU just in case I crashed. And so I am in 3C, which is just off of the IC unit, and I found out that my children's father was in the morgue downstairs. He had seen me 2 days prior, said that he had relapsed. I had chose approximately a year prior to walk away from him, because I needed to get myself clean, and both of us together, it was just a trigger. So, you know, how can one wet noodle hold up another wet noodle, you know, and it was just a constant trigger. I remember the day that it just like, I'm done, you know, kind of thing, and I went to, and I've never, still to this day, I've never done 2 meetings in the same day. And I went to 2 meetings that night. I actually had gone into treatment, and I linked up with one of the girls that was in treatment with me, and we went to 2 meetings that night. When I returned home, he's like, well, I just gotta go up to the store to pick up milk. Okay, fine. Came back, and what I didn't know at the time is he had picked up the ball. And he's like, oh, it's just a treat. And I'm like, it's not just a treat. I can't tell myself or anybody else it's only going to be just one, because it's not just going to be one. And I can't promise myself that, and you can't tell me it's only going to be one. So you've got 2 options. You either hand over what you have, because I'm going to flush it down the toilet, and you can get the fuck out. And so what I didn't know is he handed over what I thought was all of it. Welcome to True Addicts. And I flushed it down the toilet, and I went through an internal vibe that I had never experienced before in my life. And I grabbed myself a pop, and I went upstairs, and I cried. And I cried, and my 2, 3-year-old, my oldest, came into the bedroom, seeing me crying on the bed, put her arms around me, and went, Mommy, everything's gonna be okay. Right then and there, I knew, you know what, everything is going to be okay. And that's where I started, that it was like, I'm just done. So since then, I have been clean and serene. Don't know about so much as the serene part on many occasions, but it's been a journey. Then in through life, being a young parent, not really young, but younger, it was like 23, 24 when I had my kids, going to meetings, and then dealing with 2 girls who were 13 months apart. Lord Jesus, please, no, I'm never doing that one again. Not happening. 3 weeks out of my month, you don't want to come around my house because you think PMS. No, it's some kind of psychoticness. In the later years, 2 years ago, okay, let's start this back. 3 years ago, my oldest daughter decided she was going to steal my truck and drive it to Nipigon, which is about an hour and a half drive away from Thunder Bay in winter. She thought it was a good idea. I didn't like the people who she was hanging out with. She was experimenting with lots of different drugs. I really found it scary because all of a sudden I'm powerless over the situation of my child. She was running away. And I didn't know whether she was on the street corner dead. So I had her charged, and I got a lot of flack from a lot of people going, why are you charging your daughter, you know? And I went, you know what, she wants to do an adult circumstance, she's gonna deal with an adult consequence. So I had her charged. I did not let her go through the court diversion. I'm such a bitch. I want curfew. I want her to abstain from drugs and alcohol. I want her to attend school. If there is, you know, whether it be a counselor or whatever, she needs to go to it, because I'm not having this argument with her. The judge also did the form 34, I do believe it is, on her, and there's a lot of red flags in that form. She has a diagnosis of ODD and ADHD, but what they're doing, because of her age, and still continue because of her age, they are keeping watch of bipolar. And if you've ever dealt with somebody that has bipolar, it's fun. My youngest, actually she breached, she went to jail. She is a night and day child. You never know that she lived the path for approximately a year of her life. She is very gung-ho about becoming a chef. She did 2 weeks at Confederation College to do, it's like a little course sampler kind of idea. to see if she actually wants to do it. She is the main line cook at a restaurant that is open till 3 o'clock. She's their main cook on the weekends because she's still attending school, and she's at Montana's during the week from 1 to 4. So to turn around and see the change on what it was, and it was a collaborative effort between social workers. The probation officer was huge. He was a huge help and still is a huge help, because if she has a problem or if she's facing something, she knows that he will give her an unbiased opinion and give her ideas on ways around it. That is huge, especially with the youth. If they can, and not many, it doesn't happen often that, youth go, you're a probation officer, like, I have to talk to you. But that rapport was just, it's phenomenal. So she's still from time to time, actually we're supposed to be going for lunch with him in the next couple of weeks. My youngest, grade 8, a couple of years ago, I had her formed 4 times. After the 4th time that I had her, I brought her to the hospital 7. They formed her 4. One time, they said, yes, we can form her, but you're going to be in the emergency room for approximately 3 days. CAMU is packed. Pediatrics is packed. So you will have to sit in emergency for the next 3 to 4 days. And you have to stay there with her at all times because she is a minor. Or you have the choice to bring her home. Great. The last time that she was formed, she got a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder. It explains a lot why she does the things she does, and I've taken special parenting on just why she does the things she does. And it's nice to know that I'm not the only parent that's watching their child do this. And it was a Wednesday, and we had our group meeting Wednesday nights. My daughter turned around, and I can't remember what it was that triggered her off, but she went into a bedroom and she started cutting, because cutting is part of borderline, and she slid her arms up and down. And when I came in, when she finally let me into the bedroom, she was sitting on the floor. She had wrote, help me on the floor with her blood. And she turned around, she looked at me and went, Mom, is it deep enough? And I went, what do you mean? And she said, Mom, is it deep enough for stitches? And it's like, and Mom, I don't want to go to the hospital again. She hasn't cut herself in approximately a year, which is nice. 3 weeks ago, 3-4 weeks ago, and she's not doing bad. She stayed over at her girlfriend's house, and she was sexually assaulted by her girlfriend's uncle that had come in from out of town to visit his children. He's 36 years old. We are in court. Dealing with a borderline with that. I am watching her put up a wall that she completely numbs out. She does not want to speak nor talk nor nothing. I have got the sexual assault center and different counselors going, we're not even going to touch her because the medication, they had to put her on the antivirals for HIV because we just don't know. And she had to come off all her medication. Well, now she's unstable. The counselors do not want to touch her to start dealing with any of this stuff because she's not on her medication. And with borderlines, when she crashes, her depression equals suicide. So if she crashes, I may find her hanging somewhere. So now it's reintroduction of medication. They got her on an emergency list, which I have been on for the last 2 years, and this is the frustrating thing from, as a parent's, background, watching, you know, your significant other or your children or whatever going through this and the services just ain't there because you guys have got a lack of, you know, the funding just ain't there for you guys. And then, you know, shit hits a fan and it's like, I got a 6-month even on an emergency list, I got a 6-month waiting list. I have been on the waiting list. My daughter's been on the waiting list for the last 2 years to get into the TIDY program, which teaches children that have got borderline how to deal with their emotions. And instead of, you know, whatever, to slit their wrist, to do that kind of act, how to deal with what they are going through and what's going on in their own brains. And now she's on the emergency list and I still haven't heard anything. So this is what, her father was bipolar. Her father's brother's diagnosed schizophrenic bipolar. He's fun in a whole lot of ways. I don't even, mind you, dealing with bipolar and the borderline, there's days where I feel it'd be easier to deal with schizophrenia with children because it's a cut and dry, whereas borderline is so complex. I mean, it's so complex, it is so taxing towards the families. And it's nice that I've got a rapport with the OPP because the last episode that I had to phone the police, it was a fight between both of my girls over a glass, and I made half the size, a glass of pop, right? Look the fuck up. It was on. We're talking fisticuff, got them separated and all that, and went, you guys, you know, I'm done. It's nice to know that the officers know who I am, so I meet them at the door and go, okay, hey, long time no see, how's it going, you know, kind of thing, and hey, how's it going? Yeah, we haven't seen you in a while, and how's everything going? Okay, let me prep you on about what you're about to walk into, okay? This is the circumstance, this is what's going on. You already know that the girls have mental health issues. So this is what's going on, okay? What do you need from us? I need you to turn around and talk to them. I don't think it's an arrest, I don't think it's a nothing. Turn around and talk to them, not a problem. And they walk in there without the puff chest, like a big authority brother, and turn around and go, girls, what the fuck is going, you know, okay, maybe not those words, but what the hell is going on? Like, come on now, you guys were doing good. Like, what the hell? What is all this about? You know, but as the authority and kind of takes that, not so much as stepping back from being an officer, but stepping back with that, we're going into a hostile environment kind of idea. So it's really nice to be able to be at an area and a spot in where I am, to actually look at an officer and go, hey, you know what, okay, let me prep you. Because a lot of officers, when they're walking into a situation, whether it's a, you know, domestic violence or whatever the heck, to have somebody of sound mind going, okay, let me tell you what's going on, just so you know, so you've got kind of some kind of background, instead of walking into a room that you have no knowledge of, you've just gotten a call that, you know, whatever's going on, you know, okay, let me tell you what's going on. This is the situation, this is what's going on, this is what, and the officers, when they left, they turned around because the pop thing got brought up, and he goes, I thought they were gonna go at it right in the frickin' living room because the pop got brought back up, eh? And they thought they were gonna scrap it out right there, and I went, I'm not even joking you, it was a cup of pop, and you just sit there shaking their heads going, you good? Yeah, we're good, okay. Maybe not. But this is where all you guys come into huge play for me in particular. I need you all to be able to run me back feedback, to be a better parent, to be a better person. And every one of you, every one of your roles, you know, I take everything, little bits of everything that you are and that you've studied and you've experienced and you've learned, and use it in my own life so I can better deal with what I have on my plate at home. And I'm also back in college, switching, going from healthcare to trades. It's fun. So it's and then going back to college after 20 years, Lord, that's a whole different subject there, man. I didn't ever think that I was gonna go back. and do it all over again, but we are here and trying to be that role model for my children, you know? Where does it start? If you don't have the support at home and you don't have the parents, and I've seen crap ass parents that you just wanna reach out and smack because, like, the kids have got so much potential, but if you don't teach them, if that parent doesn't have the tools to teach them, what are they ever gonna learn? So I'm glad you guys are all here. I'll pass it over to Brian, and he can tell you a little bit about him and what he's